That's my baby. I'm dying.
That's my baby.
We're going at it at 110%.
I just want 5 minutes of happiness, please. Just give me 5 minutes.
And they scored! They did it!
Left.
What the hell was that? Oh, yeah!
What the fuck are you talking about?
It's Monday Night Sports Hounds live exclusively on A2D Radio. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. Frank Vesby producing the show like he does each and every Monday. Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Download us, stream, like, subscribe, share, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spreaker, Spotify, Takeover Talk. We're absolutely everywhere. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Download, share, subscribe, turn those notifications on so you don't miss anything A2D related. As always, we're brought to you by our doc, Make 'em Yours Too, specialized physical therapy, 2 convenient locations in Burlington and Cherry Hill. Like I said, he's our doc here at A2D Radio, Make 'em Yours Too. We're also brought to you by Body Check Wellness, a line of products that promote wellness, balance, and recovery by using the full potential of hemp, extracts, blends, gummies, and topicals. A2D is your promo code to get 25% off. Look out for Riley Cote once a month, exclusively on A2D Radio with the Hockey Happy Hour. Of course, a former Flyer. Really nice guy, a guy that me and Brad have interviewed a few years back as well. He's got a lot of great insight. Maybe you can shed some light on what is going on with the Flyers right now. The trade deadline is looming in the NHL. The Flyers are on the ice right now playing the Boston Bruins. We got the Phillies in action. We got the Mets in action. We got the Yankees in action. The Phillies and Mets are playing each other, which is always fun. Jacob deGrom's on the hill. This is actually the Mets' first game. This is their opening day. So probably a little extra juice on the Mets side of things. Phillies obviously get a huge sweep over the Atlanta Braves over the weekend, a team that I think is a very good baseball team. I was very impressed with the Phillies over the weekend.
They did a nice job. They really did.
They beat 3 really good pitchers. The bullpen looked okay. I'd like to see the bats get going a little bit here, but they faced 3 good pitchers against the Braves, and now obviously you're facing DeGrom tonight. So you just got to bide your time until you can get hot. You
take a lot of pitches, Rob, and try to get him out of the game by the 6th inning, so you can get him, into the Mets bullpen. You don't want this guy. You don't want this guy going out there and giving you, 6 plus innings, because if he does, you're going to have a hard time scoring.
And the Mets, that's obviously their weak point. It was their weak point last year. I'm not in love with their bullpen. I think it's going to keep them out of the playoffs. Bryce Harper's at the dish right now against Jacob deGrom. 2 titans of their industries, respectively. We had a big trade today in the NFL, Brad. Sam Darnold goes from the New York Jets to the Carolina Panthers. A 6th-round pick, a 2nd-round pick, and a future 4th-round pick.
I believe the 2nd and the 4th are for next season, and the 6th is this draft.
So only one
for this year.
One pick this year, yeah.
It pretty much locks the Jets in at 2, and from what I've heard, sounds like it's going to be Wilson. So
that means probably the 3 top picks in the draft are going to be quarterbacks.
Right. So all those receivers are going to be sitting there waiting for a lot of teams to try to pick.
So
Atlanta might pick a quarterback too, Rob. I don't think they're going to get a receiver.
I don't know if I'm. Matt Ryan, far from their problem. We'll see what they do, but
they're old. He's getting old. They do need to start looking at the future of their team. He's not young anymore.
It's true. So we'll digest that. Obviously, the Giants, they pick 10th. The Cowboys 11th. The Eagles pick 12th with their trade back. And it pains me to say it because I know I kind of blew a gasket when they traded back because I'm still not in love with the move. But now that we're looking at, unless I don't know anything about the NFL, like San Francisco doesn't make that move to pick a position guy. They're going to pick their quarterback because they're not in love with Jimmy Garoppolo.
No, they're going to they'll pick Fields probably.
So now that we got 3 quarterbacks probably flying off the board first, Howie might have made the right decision to trade back like that. It looks like they might
They're
get
going
a
to
position
get
player.
They're going to get as far as the receivers. Surtan is going to be one of those top players too. So I mean, at this point, you're probably going to be in a situation where the Eagles can get one of those top receivers. Whether it's the tight end or any of the big time receivers, they're going to get one of those guys. And so might the Giants if the Giants decide that that's where they want to go. There's at this point, I think 12 is probably as far back as it goes if you want to get a top notch receiver. And so they may have actually done the right thing this time.
And I still don't put it past them to move back up the board. Maybe a trade with Atlanta, maybe a trade with Cincinnati at 5.
Anything's possible.
To jump up and get a quarterback, because I still maintain that they don't believe in Jalen Hurts. You don't accumulate these assets if you have your franchise quarterback. You accumulate assets so you can go out and get your franchise quarterback. I believe that. The NFL, there's 2 types of teams in the NFL. Teams that have their franchise quarterback that they're building around, and teams that are looking for their franchise quarterback. When you accumulate assets the way the Eagles are doing, in the manner in which they did so in their trade with the Miami Dolphins, it screams to me that they don't believe in Jalen Hurts. I don't blame them for not believing in Jalen Hurts, because I don't believe in Jalen Hurts. But, you can't just keep kicking the can down the road at the quarterback position and be successfl in this league.
No, it's quarterback.
You gotta pick it. You gotta pick a guy and go with them.
Yeah, it's a quarterback-driven league, and it's a pass-driven league as well. So you've really got to go with that and see where it takes you.
Because what I was scared was going to happen was they were going to the Phillies, or DeGrom retires the Phillies. He walked Harper. Seems like looks like, yeah, and Matt Moore sat him down in order in the first inning. So there was a pitcher's duel there at Citizens Bank Park. But what I was scared was going to happen was the run on quarterbacks wasn't going to happen. Every mock draft pushes these quarterbacks up the draft, even the ones that aren't good. And I
think the first 3 that are going to get drafted, I think they all on paper seem to look pretty good to me.
So maybe Howie was right. And I've read that San Francisco loves this Mac Jones guy out of Alabama, which if you're trading that many assets for Mac Jones, I can't say that I agree with that at all.
Could be Fields too.
Fields has the tools. He has a lot of tools. Yeah. More so than Mac Jones. I mean, he's 6'3".
I agree. But I mean, either way, I think we know San Francisco is going to go ahead and draft a quarterback. That's the only reason they would make that kind of a trade. You don't make those kind of trades unless you're moving up to get a quarterback.
And then I guess, Brad, that I'm going to have to be the voice of reason yet again in Sixers land about Ben Simmons and this team's recent struggles. And I get it. You got to win these games against Memphis and teams like that, because you want to be the number 1 seed, because you don't want to play Milwaukee in the second round.
But you're resting Joel Embiid. Okay, so you're basically almost throwing the game away when you do that. I mean, the Sixers have done a great job when he's not been playing. I mean, no question. But I mean, there comes a point where if Simmons has an off night, which he did yesterday, they're going to lose. And unfortunately, they ran into a team that shot well and defended well, and they finally lost the game. I mean, listen, Brooklyn lost in Chicago yesterday. Now, albeit they didn't have Harden or Durant. By the way, from what I understand, and I don't know this yet because I don't have that game on TV yet, but the Brooklyn Nets supposedly are going to be playing Durant, Harden, and Irving. Of course, the Knicks have to be the ones to have to.
Yeah, the scapegoat for the experiment there. Yeah.
Yeah. Lucky them. I mean, they couldn't wait one more game before they do that. They just, they hate the Knicks. They love to rub it in their faces. I really hope the Knicks rub it in their faces tonight.
Look,
eke out a win.
I'll say it, and we'll talk about it more in detail later in the show if there's time. There is not a doubt there is not a doubt in my mind that the Sixers are going to represent the Eastern Conference in the NBA Finals.
I think there should be two major doubts in your mind: the Brooklyn Nets and the Milwaukee Bucks. But
I'm not even. No,
you should be.
there is not a doubt in my mind.
You don't have the talent that Brooklyn has. You do not have that kind of talent on your team. The only way you beat them is if you totally outwork them, which you might. I mean, it's possible. But
they're going to outwork them. They're going to outcoach them. They're going to hit them in the mouth on the defensive end of the floor, and they're going to go home like little bitches. It's exactly what's going to happen. I've said it a bunch of times.
Is Embiid going to play? Or is Embiid going to play, or is he going to be? Is he going to pull his?
He's going to play.
He
hyperextended his knee. It happens.
He's always doing something, Rob. He's always hurt.
Well, I mean, he was the best player. He was the best player on the planet before he got hurt. So,
I don't know about that. I don't know.
He
about
was.
That.
You not watching?
Lucas is just as good as it. Luka Doncic is just as good as him. He's just as unstoppable.
Perhaps, but I mean, look, is Ben Simmons frustrating sometimes? Yeah, he's frustrating sometimes. He doesn't strike me as the type of player that loves the game of basketball.
Yeah, but he plays. How many guys can you get that's also a defensive ace that distributes the basketball?
Not many. Which is why I'm very pro Ben, and I continue to be pro Ben through his offensive funks that he seems to go through.
Why do you think a guy like Rajon Rondo continues to get jobs, Rob? Why do you think he gets traded?
He plays defense.
Because he plays great defense and he's a distributor.
I get it. He's got to have more than 12 points, especially with Joel Embiid out. But
again, the only thing that matters as far as that team is concerned is what happens in the playoffs. Regular season right now doesn't really mean anything anymore. Yeah, you'd like to finish first, so you don't have to play either Brooklyn or Milwaukee in the second round. I get it, and I mean, obviously, it's pretty obvious you want to do that. But I mean, it's not worth getting somebody hurt. Trying to get an easier matchup. It's not going to be easy. You're going to have to beat one or two of those teams to represent the East, and whatever happens. You have to trust your team. You think that the Sixers are the best team in the East? It's not going to matter if they have to play Milwaukee or Brooklyn. If they're the best team, they're going to beat them both. If they're not, they won't. The same thing goes for Brooklyn. If Brooklyn wants to win, they got to make sure all three of those guys are healthy.
If Joel Embiid played last night against Memphis, and I watch what I watch, I might be a little hot tonight. But I don't understand how anybody can get over the top frustrated with this basketball team any night that Joel Embiid's not playing. And like you said, they did a tremendous job without Joel Embiid.
They did. I mean, what were they expecting to do without Joel Embiid? They hung around. They're still tied for first place.
Yeah, because the fan base got spoiled because they had a good road trip without Joel Embiid, and now they think whenever Joel Embiid's not in there, it's just going to be magic and they're going to play well. Like, no. If Joel Embiid, you can't adequately judge this team or be critical of this team in any game that Joel Embiid doesn't play. I'm not excusing Ben Simmons and his poor performance last night and the little funk that he's in, but if you want to sit there and say Ben Simmons makes max money and he has to carry the team offensively, like that's not what he's going to do. It's not what he's going to do. You need to focus on what Ben Simmons can do.
He's a distributor, but you know what? I can't think of too many teams who wouldn't want him in a heartbeat to run their team. He's just not a shooter. That's all.
All right, let's get to our poll.
Score a lot. The only way he scores a lot is if he can get out and transition and dunk the ball. That's his best way to score.
Yes, Doug Robbins Chase's picks were pretty solid. Ask him if he's got a pick for tonight. We'll get into our poll question here. Our poll question is brought to you by Sunrise Detox Center. If you need mental health therapy or addiction detox, call 856-655-8117. Tell them Tom Arnone and A2D Radio sent you. We are also, poll question also brought to you by looking to buy or sell. Alan Foy of eXp Realtor. 302-682-8820, alan.foy@exprealty.com. So, big game tonight. National championship. The two best teams in the country after all the chaos of the bracket. It's Gonzaga. It's Baylor. For all the marbles.
Basically the two best teams are in the final.
Yes, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah, and that's I mean, in spite of all the upsets and everything that happened, and all the picks that we had that were going against the grain and trying to pick underdogs, basically the two best teams got it.
So Gonzaga will win the national championship. Agree or disagree? I agree to the poll. And let me tell you something. This game is even half as good as the Gonzaga UCLA game from Saturday evening. We're in for quite a treat tonight. That game was
UCLA. What a story!
I mean, they went first four to Final Four to almost national championship game. Miracle.
They really came close. I mean, my goodness gracious! I mean, you're a 12 seed and you. Unbelievable. I mean, if Gonzaga wins the championship, which I think they will tonight, I mean, UCLA should really be proud of themselves. They've laid the foundation for that program to be a top program again. No question.
Well, yeah. I mean, Mick Cronin, he finally gets out of the funk because he had some good teams at Cincinnati. Couldn't really get over the hump. He gets hired at UCLA, and in just his second season, he gets him to the Final Four. So,
listen,
all
Rob,
the beach, the sunshine, and UCLA winning. I mean, that's going to open the floodgates.
UCLA has the history. They were an iconic program for a long time, back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I mean, that was an iconic program under John Wooden, but they just haven't been able to capture the magic again. But they came close this year. You know what? Again. That's a place where anybody who knows anything about basketball would want their kid to play. So, I mean, especially if they're back on top again.
So I like Zaga. I don't see how you can go out and lose after that game. I mean, they got to be riding such a emotional hot streak that I think they win. I have Gonzaga -4.5. I like the pick. Baylor's very good. Baylor's very well coached. Scott Drew's a good coach. They can player after player, 8, 9 deep. The matchup that I'll be watching is, well, first off, the way Gonzaga plays basketball. If you're a fan of like X and O basketball, the team is just not going to run and gun and shoot threes all the time. Gonzaga's your team. They play so crisp in their half court sets. They cut. They get a lot of layups. They pass the ball extremely well. Timmy is great down low, and he can hit threes. Jalen Suggs is probably going to be, if not the top pick, the second pick in the draft, certainly a top 5 pick.
Let me ask you a question, okay? As an undefeated college team, okay, do you think this plays on them a little bit? Does this put extra pressure on them, do you think?
No, it's tough to know their psyche. But I think few will have them ready to go because I don't think they were prepared to get hit in the mouth by UCLA in that first half on Saturday night. I think that's why that game was so close. So, and then they were probably smelling themselves a little bit because, they're beating teams by 20 points for months and months. So they were due to get hit in the mouth. But, I mean, no, I don't think the undefeated factor.
Every champion has their one moment of truth. It seems, especially in the NCAA tournament, every champion seems to have that one moment of truth before they get to the finals. And even in the last game, they all seem to have their moment of truth. And the champions always seem to manage to win the moment of truth and then win the championship. If you ever notice, I mean, that just seems to be a trend always in that tournament.
And Baylor, they're deep, they're well coached, they shoot a lot of threes. Gonzaga's pretty good at defending the perimeter, so I think that gives the Zags a little bit of a leg up. That's why I like Gonzaga.
They're also a little taller too, I believe.
Yeah, they're more. Baylor's more of like athletic swing type guys. But the basketball skill of Gonzaga is just unbelievable. And you have Jalen Suggs, who's just unbelievable. He has the half-court shot on Saturday night. He's going to be a top 3 pick in the upcoming draft. So that's your superstar. He can go get you one when you need it, playing ISO ball and create his own shot. Timmy can too, but I don't know. I just think Gonzaga is too much for Baylor tonight. Tell us what you think in the chat. Exit off that chat. If you watch on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell us what you think about the game tonight. There's Frank. Frank knows. Frank's got.
Yeah, I'll be watching the game tonight after I get a good glimpse of the Phillies. To answer the poll, I do agree to the poll. Leading up to this finals matchup, I know I had Houston winning the tourney, but man, Gonzaga's too good. This is probably one of the best squads that the Zags have ever put out since they became that mid-major team to watch in college basketball. I mean, very talented team. They've won all their games except for that game against UCLA by double digits. And I said in the comments of Money Pop podcast on Friday that UCLA might cause a few fits early on in that game. But it happened. UCLA caused the fits. They challenged the Zags to the wire. Amazing shot by Jalen Suggs, by the way. But I do see this as a win for the Zags. I think they're going to rebound it quite well. I'm not going to say by double digits, but I'm probably going to see like a 7, maybe 8-point victory. I'll definitely take the spread on that one for the Zags. And also shout out to the Money Pot podcast. They hit the Baylor prediction amazingly well.
Baylor embarrassed at Houston.
Yeah, I didn't expect a drubbing. I thought the game was going to be close. But Baylor pulled all the stops on Houston. So I'll definitely give Baylor a lot of credit. I mean, they ended my Cinderella run for Houston and winning a bunch of bracket pools, but
that wasn't even close. I mean,
yeah, it wasn't even
just
close.
Totally embarrassed them.
I think it was Davion Mitchell got hot right out of the gate. They got so hot right out of the gate. It was just so tough for Houston to claw back.
And that's another reason, because you win that game by so much. I mean, you can only go down,
right? And
from a betting standpoint,
exactly.
When I see it, because what did Gonzaga beat USC by how many in the Elite Eight? 15, 20 points.
Yeah.
Then you come back and you struggle. You're never as good or as bad as your last game.
Exactly. And props to UCLA with that amazing run. I mean,
yeah, and they're gonna be a factor
exactly
for years with Cronin, because now the floodgates are open from a recruiting standpoint.
Exactly. And I think that run UCLA is going to be back, and especially the next couple of years when the NBA draft is going to be opening up to high schoolers. Is that going to drive away some of that high school talent to go to college like UCLA?
Oh, I think UCLA is going to. I mean, listen. Historically speaking, UCLA has had so many legendary players go there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, and most of these kids, their parents know that.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the guys like Kareem and Walton, just to name a couple.
Exactly.
Sue the Silk Jamal Wilkes. Remember him?
Yeah. Kevin Love, Russell Westbrook.
They went to all them Final Fours.
Yeah.
They do 3 in a row.
You could go, you could go on and on and on.
Exactly.
With UCLA. I mean, they've been a terror for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Legendary program. So
that was Ben Howland, right?
Again,
Yeah, I mean they went to 3 straight Final Fours and they didn't win one Final Four game in the stretch.
Right.
It was rather unbelievable. But I mean, to get there 3 years in a row was unbelievable. But I think the Pac-12 is. I mean, we all talked a bunch of nonsense on the Pac-12.
Yeah.
In the bracket show and how they weren't that good, and then they have 3 of the Elite 8.
Yeah,
they grabbed one of the Final 4.
It's impressive.
And that USC coach from Florida Gulf Coast.
Yeah,
I mean he's getting guys. So
he's getting
I mean,
guys, and USC they might have a top 3 guy in Evan Mobley. I mean, I know we all rag on Evan Mobley, but we know he's going to be a top 3 pick in this year's upcoming NBA draft.
I'll tell you what, guys, USC and UCLA are going to be at one hell of a rivalry again, finally, in basketball. Because USC historically has not really been great with basketball.
Right. They're usually like the little brothers of the LA schools when it comes to basketball.
They're a football school. I
Yeah.
mean, in football, that's a despicable type of a rivalry. They hate each other.
Mm-hmm.
So you might start seeing that spill over to basketball now.
Right.
and then you have
a lot of fun.
Oregon up there with Altman. I mean, he's got that Nike money. He always seems to fill out a roster and seems to always make a run in March.
Yep.
And we'll have to see what Wayne Tinkle, if he can keep it up at Oregon State, because I mean they showed well too. I mean
they
were
showed well
12 seed.
too. Yeah, they showed well. I mean, this was Oregon State was a school that they projected to finish in the near bottom of the conference, and they snagged one of those bids. They make an impressive run with everything that happened with them, with a lot of key players departing, and they got the job done.
I would play for Wayne Tinkle. I would play for him. He looks like a good guy. He looks like a good guy to play for. And then how about UNC? UNC grabs a coach. They get Hubert Davis.
Yeah, they're staying in the Carolina tree, which I think is the right move. If they were going to go someone outside the box, I think I don't know how people would handle that, but I mean, this was under the discretion of oh my goodness, I'm like blanking out on his name. Yeah, I was like blanking out on the name.
Roy Williams?
Roy Williams, yeah. I don't know why I was going to say Dean Smith. I'm like, but Dean Smith has passed away years ago. But
I mean, okay.
Under the discretion of Roy Williams, they they wanted to stay in Carolina. They want to stay in that tree, which I think is the right move. I mean, nothing too crazy. And I think, when the time comes to see guys like Bill Self and Mike Krzyzewski, when they decide to call it a career, I think they might go inside their own coaching trees and pick their own successors.
Hubert Davis was a smart basketball player, though. He really was. I remember he played for the Knicks. He was really good, really solid.
I mean, player. UNC is what, a top 3 job in the whole country?
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah.
I mean, this guy's never been a coach before.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, it's you don't really have to recruit when you're at.
It's name recognition.
They come to you.
Exactly.
At UNC.
Yeah, it's one of those blue chip programs. Like, it doesn't matter.
You want to play? You want to practice where Michael Jordan practiced? Here,
exactly. Here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Play for blue chip. Hey, go to Carolina. Go to Duke. Go to Kansas. That's basically the method so far with this recruiting.
Or Kentucky.
Or Kentucky.
Yeah.
And then you saw our boy Shaka, who I roasted after he lost to Abilene Christian. He hightails it out to Marquette.
Yeah.
And then Texas, they're the big winners here because they grabbed Chris Beard from Texas Tech, who I think is an excellent coach.
Yeah.
And then Loyola Chicago, the guy's name escaped.
Yeah, Porter.
He's going to go coach Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's another
order. But I mean, like Lon Kruger, he did a good job there establishing them as more than a football school. So he should do well there. But yeah, I mean, these blue chip programs, like they don't really go outside their own.
Yeah.
So our poll question: Gonzaga will win the national championship. Sounds like we all agree here on the panel. We got Gonzaga winning.
Yep, I got them winning close. I mean, not a double-digit win, but I think they'll keep it within 7 or 8 points.
Yeah, I took Gonzaga minus 4.5. I took under 159, which doesn't seem like the consensus. But I'll ride the under. I like betting unders in big spots because if someone starts slow, I mean 159, that's basically 160, and both
you're looking at both teams playing in the high 70s, low 80s.
Right.
That may not happen. That may not happen. A lot of times in these championship games, they're not high-scoring games because teams are a little nervous when they play in these kind of games and they start slow. They usually pick it up later.
All right, let's get to some comments here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Turn on your notifications. Bryce Blackwell's in the house. What's up, Bryce? Philly's looking good. Bullpen good. Look, I know it's only 3 games, and this is a marathon season. This isn't the bogus sprint that we had last year. So, this is a real 162, but Jose Alvarado looked good in the bullpen. Reese hit okay, and Zach Eflin yesterday. Zach Eflin and Aaron Nola, 2 keys to the whole season, pitched very well. Andy Ritter's in the house. It's nothing Phillies. The Mets just got an infield single.
Judge, by the way, put one out for the Yankees, and they lead it 1-0 in the top of the 5th. Montgomery has been utterly brilliant so far for the Yankees.
He's a good pitcher.
I think he's given up 1 hit.
I bet the Orioles tonight. Not to be a troll or a hater, but
no, I mean they won 3 in a row, and the Yankees haven't been hitting, so it's not a terrible bet.
And I get a plus 210.
I
love betting dogs in baseball. I think I'm 7-1 on the year.
I would have waited one more day and taken means, but that's okay.
Well, I look at the total. Total over 9.5. I take the dog. Total under 7. I take the favorite. So it keeps me disciplined and keeps the sample size low because not many games have over a posted 10 total, and not many games have posted under a 7 posted total. Neil Brown Jr., he thinks Zach Wilson's going to be really good with the fire emoji there. I guess. I'm not spending a top 10 pick on any of these quarterbacks besides Trevor Lawrence. I don't get it. I don't get the Mac Jones hype. Alabama, they win championships like Jay Coker, Greg McElroy. Look at that. They rarely do they have a blue chip quarterback. They win because they have Saban, they recruit well, and they have just absolute studs around whatever quarterback they decide to go with.
They had really good receivers too this time, Alabama.
Yeah, and then Fields
doesn't hurt the quarterback. Fields look like a really good athlete. I think all of them are going to be pretty good this year. They all seem very athletic.
Fields has the stench of that Ohio State quarterback, which I don't like to buy into that stuff.
Yeah,
I suppose it's a thing.
I'm not gonna buy into that because that isn't necessarily that doesn't always happen. It just doesn't. Yeah,
John Malmos, he likes Micah Parsons out of Penn State, linebacker U. If the Eagles get him at 12, okay, that's okay. I'm not going to freak out about that pick. I'm also not going to throw a parade over that pick either. I don't know about him. And these guys that sat out, they do make me nervous. Sewell, Parsons, Chase. I'm sure we can look through the whole first-round mock drafts and pick out a couple other guys that sat out. It makes me nervous. It does. So I would just be wary of that.
They once they go to training camp and they start practicing, I think they'll get the rust off and they'll be okay. You have mini camp and then you have the summer workouts and then they go in and they start the workouts, and I think all these guys will be okay. One thing gave their bodies a year to heal, that's for sure.
Neil Brown Jr., Devonta Smith would be good for you guys, I think. I can't buy after what he did last year winning the Heisman.
Well, he's not going all the way down to 12. You got a better chance of getting maybe Waddle.
Maybe. But I'm not sure because the trade with Carolina, you look at Carolina, they lost Curtis Samuel in the offseason. He goes to the football team. So they're going to be looking at receivers, and they're also going to be looking at secondary pieces, corners and safeties and whatnot. And Matt Rule, I mean, he spent his whole first draft on defense. So, I mean, John Malmos, you want to say stop with the offense. We desperately need defense, middle linebacker, and another outside linebacker, corner, safety, and edge. This team needs a lot. It'd be a much shorter list if you listed the positions that the Eagles don't need. So I get it. They need a lot. But, I mean, if I got Jalen Hurts, I got to give this kid a shot. I got to give him something to work with to see if I have a franchise quarterback, because J-Jaw and Jalen Reagor and Greg Ward, I'm supposed to evaluate Jalen Hurts based on that. That's why I don't move from 6. And I take Pitts, I take Smith, I take Chase, or I take Waddle. The 4 premier playmakers that we talked about last week. That's why I hate the trade.
One of them will fall down to that level.
And, like, I get it, but, like, there's more rounds to the draft than just the first round.
Oh, absolutely.
You can get and you're picking at damn near the top of every round because of how tragically bad you were last season. So, like, you need to get a starter at pick 37. You need to get maybe a rotational guy, a guy that shows he has a pulse at whatever. I think their third round picks picked 87 or something like that. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong on that. But you got to get guys. You got to get guys, and you got to come out of this draft. The pressure's never been like the games are over. The chances are over. Like, you got to hit on this draft. Charles Mataran's in the house. Check out Chuck's on Birds of a Feather, which I think is on every Thursday night. Chrome's in the house. He's on a bunch of shows all the time, too. Check out Chrome here on A2D Radio. If you miss Chrome, you can download him wherever you get your podcast. He agrees to the poll question. It's been Gonzaga's for the taking all year. It would be an epic collapse if they don't finish it off tonight. Epic collapse is a little aggressive. Baylor's a really good basketball team with a really good coach with a couple of first-round picks in their arsenal.
It would be more
as well.
Disappointment, an epic disappointment. I wouldn't call it a collapse. I mean, you're not giving Baylor enough credit by saying it's a collapse. If
they lost to UCLA as 14.5-point favorites and didn't even get to compete for a national, that would be, I wouldn't say epic, but that would leave a bad taste in my mouth if I were a Gonzaga fan.
Well, you're a 14-point underdog. That would be pretty epic to me. But I mean, I think they've been the best team all year, and I think they're going to finish it off tonight.
And Chrome likes your shirt, Brad. He's digging the Zed.
Getting the lead out. Compliments on this shirt.
Getting that lead out.
Yeah.
The Flyers are up 1-0. Like, great. Flyers make me sick. I don't even want to talk about them. We're going to talk about the trade deadline later in the show.
Yeah, we are all set for you guys with the trade deadline.
When is the trade deadline, Brad?
The trade deadline is next Monday till 3. And I got a bunch of guys for you to argue about that are available for you.
That's great. We can hopefully there's moves so we can put the whole show around the NHL trade deadline.
I think the Flyers are definitely going to make some moves, Rob.
They can't do nothing. Like, you can't sit there as the GM, Chuck Fletcher, and watch what's going on right now and do nothing at this trade deadline. They're
so inconsistent. They can't seem to put 2 games together back to back. It seems like they'll play one good game and then one god awful game. I mean, they had that thrilling comeback last Monday night when you and I were roasting them about getting their brains beat in by Buffalo, and then they come back and win that game in overtime, and that's a great win. I don't care if it's Buffalo.
Brad, then they give up 6. They give up 6 the next night to the same stinky Buffalo team.
That's what I'm talking about. It seems like they do the same thing with the Rangers. They blow a 3-0 lead, but they come back in overtime and win the game, and then sure enough, the next night they lose 9-0. I mean, this is the kind of stuff they need a couple of veterans, and I got a couple of veterans for you, by the way.
And then we have breaking news.
Michael Granlund is not the only one, or Matthias Eklund. They're not the only guys that are on the trade market, Rob.
All right, we have breaking news. Our correspondent, 10-year-old Chance, he's picking Gonzaga tonight, 92 to 84, which would not be good. Not be good for my under bet. But Chase likes Gonzaga. Chase had some good picks. He picked a good bracket.
Yes, he did.
He had Loyola over Illinois.
Yep, that's a smart kid. He knows his basketball, that's for sure.
Brian Wilson's in the house. He just hopes it's a good game. I guess you can check out his social media for the Willie Vegas Championship Edition picks. I already told you who I like. I like Gonzaga -4.5. I like under 159. Bryce Blackwell, he thinks Zaga is going to win by 15, which would would surprise me. A blowout either way would surprise me. But if one team's going to blow the other out, it's going to be Gonzaga, in my opinion. And that would be a thumping of Baylor would just be like, the crowning achievement on probably if they beat Baylor by 15 or completely blow Baylor out tonight. I mean, you're talking about undefeated champion.
Yeah, now
maybe
you're
one of the
all-time with some of the all-time great teams in.
I mean, you're talking about Leitner's Duke. You're talking about Leitner's Duke. You're talking about UNLV. You're talking about some of the UCLA teams. You're talking about Anthony Davis's Kentucky team, and then you're talking about this Gonzaga team. However you want to jumble them up and mix them up, and I apologize if I'm missing some great teams along the way there. I know Indiana went undefeated in 78 or 77 with Bob Knight. Or no, I think 87.
Didn't North Carolina go undefeated when they had
I don't think they went undefeated, but they did win. Yeah, they had Worthy.
Was that North Carolina State or North Carolina that had Worthy? I can't remember now.
North Carolina. I guess it was 80,
82 maybe?
It was 82, I think.
Something.
I think they had – I'd have to look up the year. But, yeah, they had Michael Jordan and James Worthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
I thought something inside me says that team was undefeated, but I might be wrong. I mean, I am not an expert in college basketball, so I'm not 100% sure. I do remember that particular team, though. That was unbelievable.
And then the Bruins tied up 1-1. So that's our poll question. Brian Daly's in the house. Jake Friel's in the house. He's going with Gonzaga. 75-76. So it was 75-76. The Hoosiers went to have a perfect season. Anthony Davis didn't go undefeated. I guess they must have lost. They must have lost a few along the way in the regular season. But
they did not finish the season undefeated. I think they had 2 losses that year.
What about UNLV?
UNLV, I think the year that they won, I believe they had 5 losses that year, and then the following year they had the 1 loss, and then they lost in the Final Four.
Okay. Larry Johnson's team lost 1 game, and it was in the finals against Duke.
Yeah,
they were like a zillion point favorites, and they blew it again. That was the team with Greg Anthony on it, right?
Yeah, Greg Anthony.
Yeah. Greg Anthony,
Larry Johnson.
Yeah.
That's Stacey Augmon. They have Stacey Augmon too.
Yeah, I think
loaded.
Yeah,
they were loaded.
Yeah.
Well, like those UNLV teams, like they were they were cool.
Oh yeah.
Like they were intimidating. Like they walked on the court and they demanded respect. And if you weren't going to give it to them, they were going to run you out the gym.
Well,
they don't call the running rebels for
Yep.
No reason.
Because then what was it? The Towns team, they went undefeated all the way until the Final Four, and they lost to Wisconsin.
Yes,
right.
That was the team like everybody thought was probably the greatest, probably if not the greatest team to never win a title with a team that was so good where you could have fielded 2 Kentucky teams and they both would have probably made the Final Four. They were that good that
honestly, Frank, you look at the Villanova win in '85 against Georgetown. That may have been one of the biggest upsets I've ever seen in championship play. I mean, that Georgetown team was one of the best college basketball teams I've ever seen.
Right.
I mean, they were ferocious with Ewing and Pearl. No, not Pearl. Sleepy Floyd, and I can't remember some of the other guys on that team. But that team was ferocious too. I think Mourning was a backup on that team. Mourning,
Lonzo Mourning coming off the bench. That's pretty good.
Yeah, with Ewing and Ewing back then was a different player. He used to go to the basket all the time, and he was a mean, ferocious defender. He got a little soft in the NBA. He became a shooting guard in a 7-foot body in the NBA, but it's a different game. So
let's talk a little trade deadline, Brad, because I got the Flyers. I'm going to switch over to the Flyers for a few minutes here. It's 1-1.
I got some guys for you Flyers.
But Brad, I can't watch this team do nothing at the trade deadline.
Well,
it's been a total disaster. They've been such a disappointment. All I hear about how good these young guys are. None of them seem to be developing. And I have Coots in his prime. I have G, who I'm squeezing every last drop out of, still playing really well. You have Voracek. Overall, it's just been a very disappointing season, and I can't watch them do nothing. There's a big save by
part of it, or should I say, I think most of it is that for whatever reason the defense has taken a huge step backwards. And to be honest with you, Rob, the forwards aren't really coming back and doing a very good job of helping them out either. And I think that's been one of the big disappointments as well.
Well, I can't watch Nolan Patrick play anymore. Nolan Patrick can't play.
Well,
he can't play.
Nolan Patrick has been discussed in trade. The Flyers actually were talking.
There's a power play. Sorry, but there's a power play goal by the Boston Bruins. I think Bergeron, the captain,
you guys
lights the lamp on the power play.
You guys got to keep my boys in the playoffs too. Anyway, here's some players for you guys. Okay, and you can decide who you would rather have. If you fans out there, you got Brandon Montour, Buffalo Sabres. And we're talking about defensemen, everybody. Okay, Vince Dunn, St. Louis. David Savard, who personally would be my choice, from Columbus. Brett Burns, who's not gonna cost you a lot because he makes a lot, but San Jose has offered to pick up half his salary, so you have to clear out $4 million in cap space to get him. Cam Fowler, who I've always liked, another guy on Anaheim. Now, if you're talking top defenseman right now that's available, Nashville has two guys, Matthias Ekholm, who, from what I understand, they want a top prospect, a first-rounder, and a third asset, and Ryan Ellis, who I don't know why they would want to trade him because he's got six more years left at $6.5 million a year, but apparently they're willing to let him go as well. And if you want a tough defenseman, you can get a guy like Josh Manson who can play and mix it up with the gloves too. I think if the Flyers could get any one of these guys, I think it would improve them immensely.
I mean, the Flyers, they have 5 games this week, so you gotta put something together. I mean, it starts tonight because you're chasing Boston. Boston has 4 more points than you, and they've played 2 less games.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting late. It's getting late early. And the same goes for the Rangers too. I mean, Boston's got to lose, and if the Rangers and Flyers both can't take care of them, it's going to be impossible. I know the Rangers have the Bruins the last 2 games of the season, so if they want to have a chance, they got to be within worst case scenario 4 points behind them.
I look at this East and let's throw the Devils and the Sabres out because they're just not good enough this season.
No,
especially with how the schedule is.
Especially Buffalo. Buffalo has been, when Buffalo lost Jack Eichel, that was the end of the season for them.
But the Flyers, I mean, their differential is a -23. So they've scored 109 goals and they've let up 132, a -23. Put that in perspective. Washington, they're in first place. They're at +15. The Islanders, who play tremendous defense, they're at +27. Pittsburgh's +24. Boston's only at +10, but they've had problems with COVID and missing games and stuff. Then you got the Flyers at a -23. I mean,
Boston's problem is they can't score, Rob. And to be honest with you, if anybody is going to get a goal scorer, and I'm looking at Kyle Palmieri on the Devils because I think he's the most likely guy Boston would try to get. They get him. It would be almost impossible for teams like the Rangers and Flyers to catch him. I mean, that's who Boston's got to focus on. He's an unrestricted free agent at the end of the season. He's 29 years old. He's never scored less than 25 goals in the NHL. That's your guy right there. I mean, if you're Boston, Boston needs some help scoring. I mean, you got guys like the usual suspects like the guy from Cherry Hill, Bobby Ryan, and there's guys like that. Ryan Getzlaff, from what I understand, is available. Taylor Hall, of course, is available. Dustin Brown's name's popped up now. I understand the Islanders really have their hearts set on him. So look for LA to deal him to the Islanders at this point, because they need a guy like they're trying to replace Anders Lee, and Dustin Brown is kind of almost the same player. To me, the best team in the division right now is the Pittsburgh Penguins. I mean, I've watched all these teams. Okay, I think I've watched enough of these teams that I think I'm being fair here. I think the Penguins have the best goaltending in the division, and I know you guys are going to sit there, but Penguins, what are you, out of your mind? I think Jarry is really good, to be quite honest with you, and I think Casey DeSmith is exceptionally good. Every game I've seen him play, he's been outstanding. I like that Pittsburgh goaltending tandem, and I'll tell you what, I think they're better than the Washington goaltending tandem. Rask is getting old. I don't necessarily trust him if the Bruins make the playoffs. Don't like the Flyers goaltending. We're not going to make it because we're just not good enough. Washington's goaltending is young. I just don't know that those two rookies, are going to be good enough to get out of that division. I just don't know that they are.
The Flyers are on a power play here. They can't seem to get it set up. Now Bruins are taking the puck down the ice. They get a shot on goal. I mean, they gave up 2 shorthanded goals to the Sabres in a minute in the last game when they let up 6 goals. You get the 19th. You get the 19th. It's right there on the screen. 19.3%, 19th in the NHL. Like, that's not good enough. We had Stanley Cup aspirations here in Philadelphia.
You want to be at 25%. That's the goal of every team on the power play is 25%. But bare bones minimum, you want to at least be at 20. If you're not at least at 20, you're not getting the job done.
What do you mean? Explain that to me. It seems like you should score like 80% of the time on the power play. They have one less guy.
But it's not that easy. A lot of these teams are so good at killing penalties nowadays. I mean, everything is basically the same. Okay, what they all do is they stay in their box. Okay, they try to keep the other teams to the outside. Okay, and then if somebody bobbles the puck, there are 2 guys right on top of them. One guy hits him, and then the other guy grabs the puck and sends it down the ice. And that's just these teams have gotten so good at it that it just seems like it's almost secondary that they do this. And again, power plays are more rhythm than anything else. And once a team loses their rhythm on the power play, they're shot. And at this point, part of the problem with the Flyers is that they've got a lot of talent on that power play. But for whatever reason, I think they pass too much. I don't think they shoot enough, and that's definitely a problem. Giancarlo Stanton just hit a ball that oh my goodness gracious, he hit the ball off of the he hit the ball on the terrace in the what you call it? It's a grand slam, by the way. He hit the ball halfway up the left field bleachers. That is a shot. So now
what's it, 6-0
now? Yeah. So I told
that's
you
not good. It's not good for my bet.
No, but if you only bet $10, who cares? But Prism 280 is in the house. So Prism, out of the defensemen that I mentioned, who do you like? And a lot of you guys out there who are hockey fans, I gave you guys some good names out there that are all on the trade block that everybody wants. How much are you willing to give up? Are you willing to give up a first round pick and and go with the guy from Nashville, Ekholm, or are you willing to try to get a guy like Dunn from St. Louis? I mean, there are some guys out there that could really, really improve the Philadelphia Flyers.
I'm totally down. I'm totally down to shake things up. Totally down to shake things up because this is just a stale hockey team.
They need a veteran. I mean, they really, really miss Niskanen. I mean, I don't think anybody could have.
I want a guy that I can get, and he's going to be here. You know, he's going to be a building block for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 years.
Bottom line is the Flyers are going to be $22 million under the cap this summer. Okay, so if they want to get an unrestricted rental type free agent. Okay, they can do it because they can re-sign him. If they really want to get him, they can just re-sign him. And I mean, just because they're going to be unrestricted free agents when you trade for him, it doesn't mean that you can't re-sign him. So
that's fine, but I want a guy who's gonna step in, and if you got to re-sign him, that's fine. Like I need a substantial guy that I can put with these young guys, and I need to mix up this core a little bit. Because I think they're doing what your boy Cashman with the Yankees yelling, screaming at him to all the time. Prospect talking.
They are. I mean, Matthias Ekholm is probably the best defenseman on the market. That guy Ellis too is really good on Nashville, and he signed for another 6 years at $6.5 million a year. He's also really good. I mean, those two are outstanding defensemen, and they would help any team. I would think if I'm the Flyers, I got to think about getting one of those guys. If you truly want to help your team, and Ellis wouldn't be just for this year. So if you're looking for a guy who down the road is going to make a big difference, there's your guy right there. I mean,
how old is he? I mean, I'm looking to get like a 25, 26-year-old in here that can shake things up and give me another key guy.
I'd have to look him up, but he just signed a 6-year contract last year. So I can't imagine that David Poile – I honestly don't know how old he is, but I can't imagine David Poile would sign a guy for 6 years if he was in his 30s. He's one of the smarter GMs in the world. I would think that he's probably around 27, 28.
Prism 280, he likes Ekholm, but he's not sure if the Predators are going to be buyers. He thinks the Predators might be buyers at the deadline. You look at the standings; they're holding on to the fourth seed in that division.
They're not going anywhere. I mean, you also, there's another guy that plays in New Jersey who might be a good fit, but again, he makes a lot of money too, and that's PK Subban. I know that he's going to be available as well. I just don't know if he's going to be a fit in Philly.
Why wouldn't he be a fit in Philly? Our defense stinks.
He's more of an offensive defenseman than a defensive defenseman, but he's the kind of guy he'd be really good for them because you can put him on the power play. He's a terrific point man on the power play. He's got a
power plays. Flyers power play is putrid.
Yeah, well, I think he would be. I think he would help them. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad move either. Again, I just don't know. There's a lot of people who are down on Subban. So, and it really doesn't have a lot to do with his hockey. It has a lot more to do with some of the stupid things he does on the ice, which piss people off. So, and we're talking about dirty stuff on the ice. That's so. I don't know.
I like it. I like a guy. I love me a guy that has some dirt under his fingernails.
By the way, I gotta give a glove up to Sam Moran, who basically kicked the shit out of Ross Johnson. That was a very, very impressive decision for Mr. Moran. Holy moly! I mean, you're beating up a guy like that. I mean, you know what? I want to see him. I want to see him go nose to nose with my buddy out in Vegas, Ryan Reeves. See who's the best out of those two? Because I'll tell you what, that's a quality win for a fight. Because Johnson is as tough as they get. So
then I'm not opposed to making a couple of moves.
No, they're
on the Flyers.
The question is, because I've also heard the Flyers are also looking for a goalie. Now, if they get another goalie, are they going to? I would assume that would mean Elliott would go to the taxi squad, and then they would let Carter Hart be the backup for the rest of the season. I mean, you can get a guy like Devin Dubnyk, who's had playoff experience and has been good in the playoffs in the past. He's very gettable. You got Merkelins, I think I pronounced his name right. Elvis.
I don't know, but Brad, I don't know what a goalie does for this team because their defense is so bad.
But their goaltending hasn't been good either, Rob. Let's be honest. Okay, they've given up a lot of bad goals this year. Too many. I mean, but really, it starts with the defense. I mean, I really think that they should be picking up one or maybe two defensemen. And again, the cap, they don't have a lot of cap space right now. But you know what? These teams, especially in Anaheim's case and San Jose's case, you got some real good defensemen. I'm going to give you the names again, just for all you guys to remember. You got Josh Manson, Cam Fowler, okay, Brett Burns. These are guys that they're willing to pay. You know, the money can be taken out of. A guy like Brandon Montour or Vince Dunn on St. Louis, very good defenseman. And you know, basically, if
why would the Blues?
Because the Blues are having a horrible season this year, and between them and Nashville, you know, even if one of them makes the playoffs, it's doubtful that they'll go anywhere. That's why they're both talking about getting rid of these guys. They're you know, I think they need to get some assets, both of them. So it's gonna be kind of a tough challenge for the Flyers because you know you're also looking at another team. Let's see, you want to trade Coots for Mitchell and Suter from Chicago.
What do you say to that mock trade proposal?
No, I'm not trading. Couturier is a tremendous defensive center who can put the puck in the net and he wins a lot of faceoffs. I wouldn't be trading him.
And I have to apologize. I'm not familiar with Ian Mitchell.
I mean, listen, and you know, I would love to see the Flyers lose all 82 games. You know me, but I mean, I'm trying to be honest and fair here. If I'm a Flyers, I'm not doing that. Cliff Fletcher is no dummy, guys. He knows how to build a team. I mean, listen. All I'm trying to say is there's a lot of guys out there who are gettable. There's guys that I didn't mention who you know, when I was looking up some of the trade deadline guys, there are some other guys who are gettable out there. I think these are guys that are extremely available right now for the right price. And believe me, especially Nashville's guys, Nashville, if they make the playoffs, they know they're going to get knocked out in the first round. They have no chance of winning against Tampa Bay in that division. There's just no way that's going to happen. And I think they're all realistic enough to know that. So you look at that, and then you figure if you can get, especially now we're talking Nashville, if you can get a first-round pick, another team's top prospect, and the player who can play now for your top defenseman, you know what? And you're a team that maybe you could make the playoffs and then get slaughtered in the first round. Okay, you know what? You might want to do that. I mean, if you're Nashville, do you honestly think you're going to beat Tampa Bay in the first round of the playoffs? Because that's who you're going to play. And Tampa Bay is going to destroy you. And right now, I think they've won like 15 in a row at home or some kind of crazy number, and they don't even have Kuznetsov playing right now. I mean, they've done this whole thing without Kuznetsov, and yes, Stamkos has played the whole season and he hasn't gotten hurt. So. I mean, you have to be realistic about where you are. Now, that's why the Flyers have to be careful as well.
Ian Mitchell, 5'9", high upside defenseman. I mean, 5'9", no thanks. We already did that experiment with Gostisbehere. It ended miserably, and now he's not even on the team anymore. Yeah, I need size and strength on my blue line.
You want Josh Manson or Cam Fowler then?
Fowler, I like. That's the best name
Fowler,
I've heard so far.
I like Fowler too. I think Fowler. I think Manson would even be better, to be honest with you, because Manson. I mean, the Flyers. I think they need a defenseman who's gonna be tough and drop the gloves and clear the front of the net. And Fowler doesn't quite do that as well as Manson. Fowler is a little bit more of a skilled player, but either way, if you get one of those two guys, I think you'd be doing very, very well.
And
So,
the Mets have opened it up a little bit. Jacob deGrom just hit an RBI single. It's 2-0 Mets. Bases are loaded with one out. Matt Moore's kind of coming unglued here, which is to be
well,
expected from your fourth starter.
You don't want to give up more than 3. If you're in the game if you can get DeGrom out by the end of the
Moore's already at 74 pitches in the 4th inning, so he's not going to be in there much longer. I'm sure they got someone working in the bullpen, but you're not going to win all these games, and to get that sweep over a really good team like the Braves over the weekend to kind of transition to some baseball talk here.
You guys have nothing to complain about, and to be honest with you, you guys got a raw deal having to use your 4th starter against DeGrom. I mean, let's be honest, okay? Fair is fair. I mean, if you're facing DeGrom, you want to have him face either Nola or Wheeler. I mean, Matt Moore is your number 4 pitcher. I mean, tomorrow night you're gonna have a reasonable opportunity. I mean, Stroman isn't that good, so you definitely could smack him around. That's a fair matchup. But I mean, it would be like the Yankees have to use their number 5 pitcher, who would be like Herman or one of those, or Montgomery's pitching well tonight, but let's say they'd have to use Herman against against one of the top pitchers in the league. Herman would have to pitch against Justin Verlander. Just an example. That's almost an unfair matchup. That's impossible to win a game like that. Unless you had a miracle, unless your number 5 pitcher shuts everybody down. I mean, guys are number 5 pitchers for a reason, and number 4 pitchers for a reason. And Matt Moore's your number 4 starter. You didn't sign him to expect him to beat DeGrom. The Mets they kind of got lucky with this one. I mean, they're a little bit ahead now. They have a very good chance on paper to have the better pitcher on the mound for today and tomorrow against the Phillies. But you know what the key is to beating the Mets? You got to get their starter out. Their bullpen is not very good. And if you get Edwin Diaz out there and you put a little pressure on him, he folds every time. So keep it close, and you have a very good chance of coming back in this game.
They got to get the bats going a little bit. I mean, I know you face 3 really good pitchers, and Ian Anderson and Fried and Charlie Morton against Atlanta, and then you're up against DeGrom tonight in what's the essentially opening day for the Mets. But we got to start hitting a little bit because this team is built around the everyday lineup. I mean, the Wheeler. I'm sure your team is going to hit the ball. You're not going to go 162-0, just like we're not going to go 162-0. This is just how it happens sometimes. By the way, just if you're wondering about betting the Orioles again against the Yankees, Means is pitching Wednesday. So, and how about Nelson Cruz today? I don't know if it was Nelson Cruz. I was playing golf. I saw they won 15-6.
Well, yeah, Nelson Cruz. I was watching the game while I was working today. I had the TV on, and Nelson Cruz gets up against Detroit and hits a long foul ball to right field, and the ball looked like it may have hit the foul pole or just grazed it, and they ruled it a foul ball. And he sat there and he complained, and you could, they wouldn't change it, and he was so pissed off. Next pitch, he hits it about 400 feet out into the left field seats. It was a grand slam home run. I'm sitting there. I'm saying, is that karma or is that baseball karma? I mean, because he could have had a home run on the first one because it did look like it grazed the foul pole. It looked like it slightly changed direction.
Mets up 2-0. They're looking for more. They're still chucked. Brandon Kinsler's in the game now. Matt Moore got the hook. Yankees up 6-0, which we've been updating for you guys. The Pirates.
Judge and Stanton both have gone deep, and I gotta have my usual Aaron Boone meltdown moment, Rob. Why is Giancarlo Stanton sitting yesterday? after 2 games. He needs a rest after 2 games. He's the goddamn DH. Are you kidding me? You're resting him after 2 games. Aaron Boone with this resting crap, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. I don't know if it's Cashman who's making him do it or it's him, but this crap has to stop. You wanted to get Brett Gardner a couple of at-bats. Brett Gardner, who gives a flying fuck about Brett Gardner anymore? Come on, guys. The idea is to win the game, okay? Not put Brett Gardner out in left field so that he can have three or 4 at-bats. And then I hear some of these moron Yankee fans trying to say that he's the only one that hit in the clutch. He got the only RBI of the game. He grounded out to second base when the infield was back and there was a runner on third. So right. I want to hear how clutch he was. He didn't get a hit. He got to get a ground ball. If they had the infield in, they would have cut the run down at home plate. I mean, I can't, Rob. I can't bash my own brethren, but boy, I think our fan base might even be dumber than yours. Hate to say that, but
there's idiots everywhere.
Oh my God. I hear some of the stupid comments that they make and I just sit there and I'm like, wow, seriously? You know, as Herman Edwards said when he
I think
you play to win the game.
I think that the Yankees fans, like you could put a bunch of scrubs out there in the pinstripes, and Yankees fans, they'll be jazzed up and juiced up and think they're the greatest thing ever.
No, I don't agree with that at all. No, I think you don't think
Yankee fans overvalue their own more than any other fan base in sports?
They're stars, yes. They're stars, but not your.
Well, I'd rather overvalue a star than looking at a bunch of idiots on Sixers groups that say this team misses Tony Bradley, and that's why they're in a funk, where they want Al Horford back or nonsense like this.
Yeah, no.
And then you get people who want to trade Ben Simmons for Russell Westbrook. You get
no.
It's bad. Philly fans, they fall in love with the undersized scrappers, and they think that they can win championships with a team full of them. When you can't. Yankees fans, you know, because it's New York and it's the Yankees and it's the pinstripes, they recognize the big stars and the star power, and they value their stars greatly. Yeah, I still get people that try and tell me that Bryce Harper's overrated.
He's not overrated. He's one of the best players in baseball.
He ran from first to third on a single yesterday. Like a bloop single. It was a great read. He knew the guy wasn't going to get it. He got on his horse and he got all the way to third.
But he's fast. He's fast, though.
I know, but how many stars run the bases like that?
Well, other than maybe Trout, not too many.
How many people I see base running mistakes all the time in the major leagues.
Absolutely.
Bad fundamentals.
Some of them,
and to have your $330 million player be a high baseball great base runner, that stuff all trickles down.
Oh, it absolutely.
But nobody cares about that because I guess if Bryce Harper doesn't go 5 for 5 with 5 home runs every game, he's going to be a disappointment because he makes a lot of money. But he's an unrestricted free agent, Brad. Would you rather have the $330 million and not have Bryce Harper, or would you rather open up the checkbook because you're a big market and grab Bryce Harper and give yourself a 26, 27-year-old guy who's going to hit you 30+ home runs for the next 13 years?
Right, and a guy that every time he steps up to the plate, it's a must-watch at bat. You know,
Prism 280. I wouldn't give up on Coots, but the Flyers need controllable, young, affordable talent as opposed to guys who can't stay on the ice like Nolan Patrick. Okay. I mean, I'm out on Nolan Patrick. I don't think Nolan Patrick can play at all.
You have $22 million in cap space over the summer, so you can do whatever you need to do. From what I understand, Nolan Patrick has the Calgary Flames wanted him, and they wanted him to in a first-round pick, and the Flyers said no.
For who?
Gaudreau.
Oh, I love me Johnny Hockey, but that's a haul.
No, that's what I'm saying. The Flyers. I heard that the Flyers said no to that.
Well, I wouldn't hesitate to trade Nolan Patrick before everyone figures. While teams still think he's good, because I've watched him, and my assessment is that he's a stiff and he can't play. So before the rest of the league catches on to that, I would try and toss him in a deal and get someone who can play.
In all fairness, though, okay, the guy has not exactly had a lot of breaks since he got drafted. When he got drafted, he didn't have a great first year. Then he had the concussion, and he missed most of last year. And he came back pretty much this year and hasn't really done much. I think the guy needs to play before you can make that judgment, just because of where you drafted him. But I can understand if you want to. I can understand if you wanted to trade him and move on. I mean, listen, if he's going to be one of the centerpieces of a major trade where you can get in a big star, you got to do that. But honestly, if you're the Flyers and you're going to give up a package like that, you got to get Ekholm. I mean, that's I think it's pretty much that's pretty much what you got to do. I mean, I've heard St. Louis wants a first-round pick for their defenseman, and that's
I wouldn't be hesitating to trade draft picks at all. Like, these guys don't even come to the league for 3-4 years.
Out of all the defensemen, to be honest with you, I kind of like David Savard on Columbus.
Columbus guy, yeah, I like him too.
I like him, and I really wouldn't mind seeing, if I'm a Flyer fan, I wouldn't mind. I would give up somebody for him. He's a very good player. He's underrated, but he's very good. I mean, he's really steady. He's Tortorella loves him, but Columbus just can't afford to pay him. So, because he's gonna want some money at the end of the season, most likely. And they have Foligno, who's their captain and everybody's favorite player out there, who's going to be a free agent also, and they're going to want to re-sign him. So they can't sign both of them.
And Brad, how about my Royals, Brad?
What what?
3
That's impressive, and what? They're young. From what I understand, their
can
young
hit.
pitching is looking pretty good. So that was a real good pick by you.
Well, I like Singer. I know I chickened out picking him for the playoffs, which I said I was going to do all week leading up to our prediction show. Then I chickened out.
Rob, Minnesota is still good. Minnesota can still hit.
The Royals can hit, and I like their young pitching staff. They
can't hit like Minnesota can, though. Minnesota is just still a devastating. I mean, Minnesota is so good offensively. I mean, they let Eddie Rosario go to Cleveland. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know. And Eddie Rosario was a very solid player. And now the Yankees have extended their lead to 7-0 as a DJ LeMahieu drills a base hit to right field, and the Yankees still have the bases loaded. And all I can say about the Yankees is I thank the schedule makers for putting Baltimore in there, because they needed to wake up, and Baltimore always seems to be, especially Yankee Stadium.
I'm a Baltimore.
Well, actually, even in Baltimore too. What am I talking?
Just own the Orioles. It's just
Baltimore. Everybody's bat seems to wake up against Baltimore.
And the Phillies, they just can't seem to crack the case of Jacob deGrom.
Well, they're not the only ones, but again, it's his first outing. Rob, he's probably not going to throw more than 90 pitches. So, I mean, if you can get him out of there after the 6th inning, you've got 3 innings to work on that bullpen.
It's bottom 4 with 2 outs. He's only got 54 pitches, so I think that we're going to be seeing Mr. deGrom.
Oh, if you see him
deep into the night.
Yeah, if you see him through the 7th inning, and they only have to use 2 innings of their bullpen, you're going to be in trouble. That's it.
Did you catch Shohei Ohtani last night on Sunday Night Baseball?
Very impressive. He hits a ball 450 feet and throws a baseball 101 miles an hour. Jeez.
I mean, that's part of the reason why I like the Angels so much in the West. I mean, you got Ohtani, you got Haney, and you got Bundy. That's not tragic. And then you have Ohtani's bat, you have Rendon, you have Trout. Fletcher's okay.
Yeah,
Pujols has still got some pop.
They definitely fixed their bullpen. I mean, the Angels are going to be a pretty good team, but you wonder with Houston what the heck happened. What the heck happened to Oakland this weekend? I mean, every one of their pitchers got absolutely mauled this weekend by the Houston Astros. I always thought their top 4 pitchers or all interchangeable. They can all be number one pitchers. And they all got bombed.
Houston's still got a pretty good line. Maybe we both undervalued Houston.
Well, their pitching did a nice job on this weekend. The only one really that didn't pitch well was Christian Javier. He got beat up pretty good. But the rest of them pitched pretty well. I mean, Urquidy was pretty good. Zach Greinke was pretty good. Who was the other one that pitched? Who pitched the Urquidy? Urquidy pitched. I can't remember who pitched on Saturday for them.
Greinke pitched one of them, didn't he?
Greinke pitched Thursday, and he pitched well. They won all 4 games, so that's a.
Yeah, but Oakland, they're so obsessed with beating the Astros because of the cheating scandal, and they got their heads so wrapped up around that I think it's like in their head.
Well, their fans were. I was watching yesterday, and their fans were constantly yelling "cheaters, cheaters," and you are cheaters. And they're going. At some point,
Brad, you got to let it go and play because if you obsess over that, it's unhealthy and it's going to work against you.
You have to save it for when you're ahead late in the game. Then you start busting their balls. You don't do it in the middle of the game. It just because then when you're doing it in the beginning, in the middle of the game, when you're getting your asses whooped, then you just look like a bunch of big babies.
And then the opposite of that too is I think the Astros are relishing it, the villain role.
Oh yeah, they sure are. They sure are, and they have they have the right manager for it because Dusty Baker. He's a veteran manager, and he's been through this before. He's been through the wars, all the wars, and you know what? He'll keep those guys in check, and he's got control of that team, and they'll do what they have to do.
But yeah, maybe. I guess
if you had a young manager, it might be a problem. Okay, but when you get an old veteran type manager, like Dusty Baker will keep those guys calm, because he's a very calming influence on all these guys. All these guys kind of like him, and will keep them low key and calm, and that's kind of what's going to happen. Now, when they come to New York, they're going to hear a lot of crap too.
You're gonna hear crap in New York.
Yeah, they're
a good team, and they beat
a lot of crap in New York. And if the Yankees have a big lead late in the game, the fans are really, really going to beat them up. And and then Houston might care. But you know what? It was almost like when the A's fans were doing that, they were smirking on the field. They're smirking. I mean, they're ahead 6-0, and the fans are yelling, "You are cheaters," and they're laughing. That's not the time to do that. When the Yankees are playing the Red Sox, Yankee fans don't start yelling "Boston sucks" when they're getting their brains beat in. But you know what? If the Yankees are ahead, yes, that's when they do it.
And then it's not going to get any easier for the Oakland A's pitching staff because they're going to Chavez Ravine and they're going to they got a date with the Dodgers.
No, boy,
so it's not getting any easier for
That's right. They got Dustin May is pitching against
Montez is pitching.
Montez?
Yeah.
So again, Montes, yeah. He's the one that got booted for roids a couple of years ago, right? Frankie Montes?
Yes, he did. And I think he pitched opening day and it didn't go that great.
Well, again, they had it off. They had a rough weekend. But having to play the Dodgers isn't going to make it any better. Dodgers had their hands full with Colorado this weekend for sure.
Yeah, but you're going to Coors, and it's the opening series. I mean, they took 3 of 4.
Yeah.
So they got their wins. And then, you got the Astros. They're going to Anaheim to play the Angels. So the pretty big stretch for the Astros coming out of the gate here. You get the 4 wins against the A's, who are a pretty good team, and now you're going to play, the Angels, who I think are a pretty good team. I just bet the Astros too. High total over 10. Take that dog. It's a no-brainer to bet dogs in baseball, Brad. especially big ones. I know I look like an idiot because I took the Orioles tonight because that was a high total. And I'm getting it's a plus 220, plus 210. So
the only thing I would say to you about that is they're live dogs, and then they're just dogs that I don't.
Yeah, but I have my system, and I just do it. I
No, I know, but I wouldn't suggest it against the Orioles against the Yankees. The Yankees have just beaten the hell out of them the last few years. So I'll say
every game.
Need to own the Red Sox, though.
What's that?
The Orioles seem to own the Red Sox, though.
I think a lot of teams are going to be owning the Red Sox over this team.
They look terrible. I mean,
they are up 3-0. They are up 3-0 on the Tampa Bay Rays in Fenway. Nick Pavetta's pitching. Our old friend in Philadelphia, Nick Pavetta.
Go Nick, because that we definitely want Tampa Bay to lose. I still have a healthy respect for that team. Have a healthy respect for Toronto too. I was very impressed with Toronto's bullpen this weekend. I mean, they got some guys.
Because they lose their closer, and they had a lot of guys step in.
Yeah, that guy Merriweather. Holy smokes, is he good?
And you got to think Pearson's going to get some innings sooner or later. He's a little nicked up from spring training. The Jays are good. I think they're right in line, and now they go from the Yankees. They take two. Would they take 2 or 3 from you guys, right?
2 out of 3. Now
you go to Texas, who is just tragic. I mean, you look at the Rangers lineup, and it's just
they hit.
Really,
they did hit against Kansas City, though.
Sure, but
their pitching
still
is
lost.
Their pitching is scary bad, though.
I know I talked up the Royals lineup, and they can hit because I like Benintendi there. I like Carlos Santana there.
And you got Blair and Sal Perez. I mean, you got a lot.
Perez is healthy. Whit Merrifield is awesome. Tremendous ball player.
They have guys who they can hit the ball. There's no question about that. They brought Wade Davis back. And
Prism 280. Do the Red Sox have any elite prospects? I didn't like the return they got from Mookie. No, I don't think anybody liked the return they got from Mookie. It was a horrible trade. And no, they got that. They got that first baseman Dalbec, who's on some lists.
Yeah,
he's up now.
Bobby Dalbec is not bad. He had a really good spring, and I believe last year he had 9 home runs and 100 at bats.
I mean, they have no arms. And then the centerpiece for that trade, Prism, was Alex Verdugo, who I guess plays right field for them.
Alex Verdugo, I don't like him. You
don't like him?
No, I don't think he's all that good. He can't hit. First of all, he can't hit lefties. And when you start getting guys who are only good against righties, who can't hit pitchers from both sides, you're already starting in a hole. So I mean, he's young enough. Maybe he'll learn. But you don't want guys like that. I mean, you have a shortstop who's a left-hand hitting shortstop. Who it doesn't matter who's out there pitching. He crushes from both ends of the plate. In Didi Gregorius, doesn't matter. But a lot of these left hitters cannot hit lefties. Doesn't seem
because the Red Sox, they kind of just they have Bogarts and Devers who are really good players.
Oh, absolutely.
And they have a lot of money tied up in JD Martinez, who.
Yeah, they've got $160 million tied up in Chris Sale. And they've got $68 million tied up in Nathan Eovaldi. I mean, and Eduardo Perez is still hurt again. I mean, there's a lot of issues with that team for whatever reason. They just don't seem to. It doesn't seem to work out. Hey, quick question for you: what's the deal with Soraka and in Atlanta? When can they expect to see him again?
I don't know. Tore his Achilles last year.
Yeah, that's a serious injury.
Achilles,
I know, and
I don't know. Maybe the back end.
I mean, what are we looking at? July with him?
At the early, I mean, I guess it depends. It depends if it was his push-off foot or not. I'm not sure which Achilles he tore.
Either way, I mean, for a pitcher, that's a tough injury.
But Achilles, I mean, you got.
But if he's not fully healthy, I mean, he could end up screwing up his arm.
And then,
with an
you
injury.
know, because they have enough pitching there without him. Obviously, he helps a lot. He's a good player. At least he was before the injury. But like, you got enough. That's why you go out and you trade for Morton. Not trade. You sign Morton, and then they've done a great job cultivating their arms from within with Fried and Anderson. I love Ian Anderson. I think he's a Cy Young winner of just waiting to happen. I think he's great.
He's good. He's good. But I'll tell you what, the Phillies. Getting back to the Phillies. Great job this weekend. I mean, anytime you sweep a series, especially against the team that's favored to win the division, that's huge. I mean, especially for them, the Phillies needed to prove a point after what happened towards the end of last year. And you know what? Their bullpen. I said it on Facebook, and I still think this is the case. If the Phillies bullpen can at least be league average, okay, as far as their ERA and saves and everything like that, they can definitely make the playoffs. Okay, it can't be a historically bad bullpen again. That can't happen again.
Can't be, because even if you have the second worst bullpen in MLB history, last year, I've never seen a bullpen give up runs at the rate that bullpen last year gave up runs. I mean, it was a complete joke.
I've never seen a team lose games if they had 7 runs in the last inning. It happened twice or 3 times last year. I think it happened. Did it happen 3 times or twice? But I remember one I think it was against Miami. They had 7-0 in the or 7-1 or something like that in the bottom of the 7th inning, and Miami beat them. And they did the same thing against somebody else. I just can't remember who it was. But I mean, those things should never happen. So I mean, if you can, as I said, if you can at least be competitive, from what I understand, they're going to use Bradley in the middle of the bullpen. He's not going to be a closer yet. They're going to let Neris be the closer, correct?
Yeah, it looks like they're going to. I don't even think. I guess Archie Brown. I think he pitched the one game. But Girardi, he went to Alvarado in the first 2 games, and he pitched really well. The guy they got from Tampa, who I said was going to be an underrated.
He's pretty good. I mean, again, this is something. One thing Joe Girardi did very well when he was a manager for the Yankees. He ran his bullpen real well. He never ran it into the ground. He never ever lets guys pitch more than 2 days in a row. And he's very smart about who he brings in. So if you give him any talent at all, he'll figure it out for you.
And like, he's good at, everyone's going to know their role with Joe Girardi. So like, when that phone rings, the guys are going to know if their name's going to get called or not. Whereas with Gabe, it was just kind of play it by ear, just no plan whatsoever, because baseball players are creatures of habit. You know this. You've been watching the game forever.
Oh, yeah. No, they'll get to a point. The Phillies bullpen this year will get to a point where every time that phone rings, they know who's going to be getting up. They know they'll be getting up before they're even told, because they'll know who it's going to be.
And that's the way you run a bullpen. Bob Brinkman's in the house. Let's hope for a great game tonight. I think we're going to get a good game tonight. I really do.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close.
A blowout. The panel, Frank likes Gonzaga. I like Gonzaga.
I could see like 79, 75 Gonzaga.
I like the under as well. But Brad, let's get to this NFL trade in our last few minutes here. So stay tuned for Flight Zone coming up right after this. I'm sure they'll have a lot of reactions to the trade and how it affects the Eagles, because I have a mock draft up here. Ryan Wilson, it was updated today. This is the only one I could find that takes the Sam Darnold trade into account.
Into consideration.
Correct. I guess the other guys.
It kind of changes. It changes that. It makes everything a lot more clear now, especially in the first few picks. Sam Darnold goes to the Carolina Panthers for a 6th round pick this year, and then next season it's going to be a 2 and a 4. So that pretty much, and from what I
And
understand.
that's fair. That's fair value based on what the Eagles got for Carson, because Carson Wentz is better than Sam Darnold. Even though I like Sam
Oh
Darnold.
yeah, I like Sam Darnold too, but he never had a year like Carson Wentz did when they went to the Super Bowl. Come on, I mean he was never at that level. I mean he's shown glimpses, and that's it. That's
And
about it.
I think it's going to work there. And then I think that Carolina, they have a lot of the same needs as the Eagles at 12.
They need receivers.
And the Eagles need receivers too.
Yeah, I think
So it looks like the top 3 picks are, and I love because the Carolina Panthers, they had a great draft in Matt Rule's first season. I know they didn't have the greatest season last year, but Christian McCaffrey was hurt. They lose Curtis Samuel to the Washington football team, so it sets up really well for them to grab one of these top 4 elite playmakers that we were talking about last week. This guy, Ryan Wilson on CBS, he has him grabbing Jalen Waddle at the 8th pick.
Well, I think they're going to have pretty much their choice of who they want. Because you have to figure right now, the 49ers moved up to 3. They're going to pick a quarterback. Probably they're going to go with the guy from Alabama.
It seems like there's a lot of smoke there, but it's Lion season, so you never know what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean they could go with Fields from Ohio State, but first 2 pretty much gimmies. I mean, Wilson is going to be for the Jets. They've made no bones about how much they like him, and at least Joe Douglas has made no bones about it. And we all know who Jacksonville's going to pick, so we move on, and then we go to the third. And the third, it's either going to be a quarterback for San Francisco. It's going to be one of those 2. So then you go to number 4, who's what, Atlanta?
Yeah, Atlanta's not picking a quarterback. They have too many needs, and Matt Ryan can still play.
They'll probably go defense because their defense is pathetic.
Then you have Cincinnati. They're not going to pick a quarterback. They just picked Joe Burrow, who unfortunately got hurt.
They'll pick a receiver because they let Green go, so they'll probably pick a receiver.
You could pick Sewell from Oregon.
They could pick an offensive lineman though, so that their quarterback doesn't get killed.
I mean, part of the reason Joe Burrow is hurt is because no one could block for him.
Yeah, exactly. So that could go either way. Who's picking 6th? I don't remember.
6th was the Eagles, so then the Dolphins traded down, and then they got back up.
All right, so
they're going to pick 6th.
They'll probably pick a receiver. They're going to
pick a playmaker.
I think they'll pick the tight end because it's a lot harder to find a top quality tight end than it is a receiver.
Then at 7 you have Detroit, who just traded for Goff. This guy has him picking Fields. I don't buy that at all.
No, I think with Detroit, you're going to see either an offensive.
I think Surtain makes sense there. Maybe this kid from Northwestern, Parsons.
Yeah, either they're gonna go with an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, one or the other.
Really not a defensive lineman draft. I mean, these guys don't really have defensive linemen going. The guy who updated today, he doesn't have a D lineman go until 22 to the Titans.
Oh wow!
Witty Pie out of Michigan. This other guy has Jalen Phillips out of Miami going 14th to Minnesota. Jalen Phillips is a good player. That's a good prospect. That's a guy to keep your eye on.
Pick him at 7. That's a reach.
That's a gold star. That's a gold star Brinkman scouting pick there. Jalen Phillips out of Miami.
That's a guy that could end up with the Giants.
I think it would be a good pick. I think it's a pick. I think it's a pick that might meet some resistance because it's not like one of the household names that everyone's talking about.
That could be a Giant defensive lineman, very very easily because I know that they want an edge rusher in the worst way, and Gettleman was unable to secure one of those. Could be interesting.
So look at it. Let's look at it. So the first 3 are going to be quarterbacks, Atlanta's not a. I wouldn't pick a quarterback if I'm Atlanta. I'm not picking a quarterback from Cincinnati. The Dolphins have their guy with Tua. The Lions just got Fields. Or I'm sorry, the Lions got the mock draft. Yeah, I look at it. They got the mock draft. Hasn't taken Fields.
Right.
Carolina, so that's not a quarter. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks in a row that's not picking a quarterback. There's a lot of smoke around Denver picking a quarterback, but I like Drew Lock. I'm interested to see what he can do with that young skill position core with a proper offseason.
I think Denver. I could see Denver getting a receiver. They love getting receivers there. I could see them drafting a receiver, most definitely.
And then you look at 10 and 11 are division rivals in Surtain. I keep reading the stupid names on the mock draft and not who the quarterback is. The Cowboys have Dak. They just gave Dak a buttload of money. They're not picking a quarterback,
and they're not picking a receiver either, Rob.
And the Giants aren't picking a quarterback because the jury's still out on Daniel Jones, who's shown signs that he can maybe be a quarterback, a franchise quarterback.
They'll either pick a receiver or an offensive lineman.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks in a row leading up to the Eagles that I don't think are going to be quarterbacks.
I think
which leads me back to why would you trade out of 6?
I think one of those guys will end. I think one of the 4 playmakers, receivers, will be available when the Eagles draft.
And it seems like Devonta Smith is going to be that guy. He seems to be. Waddle's been consensusly over him in the mock drafts. But I mean, the mock draft. They don't really mean anything.
No,
it's just for fodder for us to talk about.
Yeah,
on the internet and the computer.
I mean, between Smith, Chase, Pitts, and who's the other one? Who am I leaving out?
Waddle.
Okay, so between those 4 guys, I think one of them will be there for the Eagles. I think one of them is going to be there for the Giants too.
Why? But now we're thinking they might be.
Yeah,
but if they're not, and you got to take like this Ryan Wilson on CBS Sports, he has the Eagles taking Rashawn Slater at 12, who I like. Big Ten senior offensive lineman, can play. Looks like he can project out to play any position you want to on the offensive line.
That's not a pick.
I like it, but
you could definitely use to fix your offensive line. Your offensive line was not good last year.
I need weapons, though. I need weapons for my quarterback. I need weapons, especially if you don't believe in them.
But you can get weapons in the second round.
I mean, I hear you on that. I do hear you because we just talked about the top of the show.
Yeah, second and third round, you can get good offensive players in the second and third round. You know, I mean, listen, when you get to the 4th and 5th round, then you're starting to draft.
Why not? But I don't understand. Why not just pick at 6 and then move 37 down? Start your trade back from there to get more assets. I don't know. I think they screwed the pooch on. I think they traded too far back, and I don't think they're going to get one of these playmakers, which I desperately want because look, I hear you. Everyone wants to list out the Eagles' needs. And I hear you. It's a bad football team. It's an aging roster, and they've drafted poorly over the last 5-6 years under Howie.
But if they get an offensive lineman, that'll check one of the boxes.
I got to see if Dillard can play. Look, I'm not going to be good next year. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, the problem is
I gotta see if Jordan Mailata can play started offensive line at either guard or tackle over a 16-game season. I got to find out if Dillard can play in this league over a 16-game season. You know, so like an offensive line pick, while fundamentally sound as it is, because you win up front in the trenches, I can't argue with that. But like that doesn't do anything for me as from an excitement level standpoint when it comes to this rebuild. Which, by the way, with all the assets they have, you should be down this year. Like a 3-4 win football team. The Eagles might not win a game next year. That's how dreadful I think they could possibly be.
Yeah, listen,
I
if Jacksonville didn't go 0-16, the Eagles won't be that bad either.
mean, they'll steal one. I'm just kind of being, doom and gloom Negadelphia with that statement. But
Giants last year, I could see 5-12.
that's right, because we got the extra game.
Who are they playing in the extra game?
We got the Jets.
Yeah, we got the Dolphins. So you have a chance to beat the Jets, most definitely.
I don't think the Eagles are going to be favored in many football
They might be favored.
Jalen Hurts is just the second coming and it's just the greatest thing since sliced bread, which I don't see at all. The Eagles aren't going to be favored in many football games. Actually. Like Rashawn Slater, an offensive line. I like Rashawn Slater. I think he's a good player because Northwestern they've been overachieving there under this coach, and it's because of guys like Rashawn Slater. He's tough up front, and he's Big Ten tested.
Well, I mean, all the Big Ten. It seems with the Big Ten, their linemen are always good. The linemen always seem to be very good out of the Big Ten. Now their skill players sometimes leave a bit to be desired, but it seems like the linemen, the defensive linemen, the offensive linemen, the defensive players as well. They always seem to be pretty good coming out of the Big Ten.
Because I think Dallas is going to take Surtain. Jerry likes Jerry.
If he's there, I don't know. I mean, I think Atlanta might pick him. Atlanta's defense was
a bad pick. Like Jace Horn, cornerback out of South Carolina. Like I'm supposed to do a backflip if they take Jace Horn at 12. I'm not doing that. Then you look at like Jalen Phillips, who I said was a gold star Brinkman scout, but like I'm not picking him at 12 and feeling great about it. Caleb Farley, he's got a bad back already. 22 years old with a bad back. Like no thanks.
And by the way, your last gold star pick was Justin Jefferson, who ended up being
good. I got a couple gold star picks. I throw them up on Facebook here and there. The two running backs the two running backs out of North Carolina, I absolutely love. I love Javonte Williams. I think he's just going to be. I love his running style. I think he's an underrated pass catcher. I think he can do it all for you. And I'm not a Miles Sanders guy.
No, we have heard that very loud and clear. With
like you got this safety out of TCU that I love, Trayvon Moring. I apologize if I'm pronouncing his name wrong. I think he's going to be a really good player. Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest. He's a defensive lineman. He's an edge rusher. He absolutely dominated at the Senior Bowl, which is a big indicator to me about who's going to be good or not. If you can excel against your peers at a high level, I think that's a big indicator. And then you got Jalen Mayfield. He's an offensive tackle out of Michigan. I mean, the track record for Michigan offensive linemen is extensive. And I don't like to go to that because every case is different. But, I mean, when it happens year after year, you could say that with the Ohio State quarterbacks too. They don't really pan out. But
no, but it's going to be a first time. There's a first time for everything.
Maybe they can. Maybe the Eagles. Maybe they're going to trade back again. And just really go. I mean, look, if I don't have one of those four playmakers on the board at 12, I'm moving back again. I am, and I'm going to take my boy Jalen Phillips, or I'm going to take my boy Javonte Williams. You could probably get him at pick 37, but he would be very high on my draft board. And if I missed on him, I would take his teammate Michael Carter, who's very good as well. But like Kadarius Toney, wide receiver out of Florida, I'm supposed to be doing a backflip over him if the Eagles wind up with him as their first round pick. Like, no,
I don't think if they can't get one of the playmakers, I don't think they're going to get a wide receiver. I think they're going to go offensive or defensive line.
But
not defensive line. I'm sorry, linebacker most likely. Maybe a corner.
And that leaves you with Parsons. I mean, it makes me nervous that he sat out last year. I'd be much more excited for a Micah Parsons pick. excuse me, if he didn't sit out last year. I don't know. Something about it just that doesn't sit right with me. That
I wouldn't be
these
so
guys
worried
sitting
about.
out.
I wouldn't be so worried about that sitting out. That sitting out last year. I really wouldn't, because you know what? I think it might be a blessing in disguise for some of these kids. You know, I mean, their bodies. You save a year of punishment on their bodies. I don't think it's necessarily that bad a thing. I mean, I know they're young, and I get that, and then I know they need the playing time. I get all that, but you know, it's sometimes it's not a bad thing for them to have less is more. You know, because I
Then
mean, you get beat up playing college football. Let's be honest.
then I'm really nervous because I think that the Cowboys, the Washington team, and the Giants, they're all right there. They're all right there. You got to think Dallas. I would peg Dallas as the favorites here on April 5th just because they have the best quarterback.
I can't disagree with you. Although I do like what the Giants did in free agency. I think they did extremely well.
They're right there. I mean, and then if Devonta Smith is there at 11, like how can the Giants not pick him for Daniel Jones?
Oh, I think they would. If Devontae Smith is still there, yeah, I think they will. I think if him or Chase or Waddle or Pitts, I think if any one of those guys are there, I think the Giants will pick them up. Again, we'll see if they're there. They may not be, and if they're not there, that defensive lineman you were talking about, the defensive end, you might see him get drafted, or the Giants might go and try to beef up their offensive line, which they definitely need to do as well.
Bob Brinkman, we need a playmaker at wide receiver. If we get Smith, that will be good because he can return punts as well. Well, I mean, you just pick the guy who can return punts, and you put him back there one time against the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay, and he ran the punt back, and then he never went back there again. They just put Greg Ward back there. Greg Ward, I mean, I know everyone likes him because he's a former quarterback, and he's carved out a nice little spot for himself in this league, but Greg Ward is not winning you a championship as a slot receiver. He's a 4th, 5th, 6th receiver on a good team.
Yeah, we still have.
It's pronounced Moore-ing.
We still haven't gotten an answer as far as whether Deshaun Watson gets traded. He's
up to 22. He's up to 22. I don't think anybody's going to trade for Deshaun Watson with this legal stuff hanging over his head. He's up to 22 lawsuits against him for sexual misconduct.
Hard to prove that, though. I mean, I don't doubt it, because I think where there's smoke, there's fire. But it's still hard.
Yeah, I mean, it's to the point now where, what's going on? Like, he did something.
I mean, yeah, he's obviously abusive to women. We get that. So I just don't know what's going to go on with him, and I don't know what's going to go on with what's his name? The guy in Seattle.
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, Russ Wilson.
Look, I think he was just frustrated because he's getting hit a lot. But, I mean, and, they haven't.
He's going to end up getting traded to New Orleans, because I would hate to see that. That would drive me nuts.
And Bob Brainwood, we don't need O-line. I agree with Bob. I think the offensive line is good enough.
Oh,
I think you got to see. I think you got to see. But Brad, I can't.
This year.
I think I have bigger needs in offensive line from the Philadelphia Eagles. I do.
You do. You need receivers. You could use another tight end. You could use a running back. There's definitely. You know what I'm surprised at? Nobody signed Wayne Gallman from the Giants. Really surprised nobody signed him. He was very good last year for them.
Yeah, but he's a guy. He's just going to sit there because nobody values running backs, and then someone will sign him before training camp. And you're right; he's a good player.
Yeah, he's good. He's gonna. Somebody's gonna sign him. You're right. Before training camp, won't get a lot of money.
Innocent until
innocent 600-700 yards for him because he's
innocent until proven guilty and charged of. I mean, TC. I mean, to each your own. But are you going to give up 3 first-round picks and a couple starters, and then find out he's out for 8 games, or God forbid he's going to jail because he did something he wasn't supposed to? I mean, that's just way too big a risk to take with all that capital.
Yeah, I mean, considering they're going to want multiple first-round picks for him. I mean,
and prison 280. I mean, Merrick.
Jail. I mean, or the PR these days. I mean, with guys with abusing women. I mean, that's not gonna look good. That's gonna look really bad. I don't think anybody really can afford to take that kind of a chance.
I mean, TC, I mean, that's all fine and good. You want to say innocent until proven guilty. That's not the way it works, especially when you're a public figure and especially in this cancel culture we got going on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's guilty or not guilty, but I mean, a lot of smoke around Mr. Watson right now. And
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
Just because a lot of women are suing him, that doesn't necessarily mean that he even knows half these women. Some of them may have just jumped on the bandwagon. So
the Phillies have DeGrom out of the game. The bullpen is going to come in. Phillies down 2-0.
Oh, they're in the game.
Maybe they can get something going. I'd like to see a 5 spot. What is it, the 7th? I kind of lost track here. Top 7.
Okay, Yankees at top 8, 7-0 over. No, I'm sorry, bottom 8. 7-0 over Baltimore, so it looks like they're gonna pick up their second win of the year.
But we'll wrap it up soon. Flight Zone will be coming up right after us, and obviously the national championship is going to be underway here in just a few minutes. But like the Eagles, they are buried here in what was the worst division in the history of football last year, behind 3 teams. And it's going to be a tough year. They have to have a good draft. Because I trust Gettleman to have a good draft. I do. I know he's not.
He's been okay with the drafting. He's been okay.
I know everyone likes to get on Gettleman because I think he's a pretty good GM. And, the Cowboys, since Stephen Jones has taken over for his father, they've been doing well. And I totally trust Rivera in Washington.
Yeah, well, he's a defensive-minded coach, and you got a team who has a very good defense. And boy, how about this Nick Net game? 108-103 with 3 minutes to go in the fourth quarter for the Nets. So the Knicks are in that game.
They're in it. And these guys in Brooklyn, they got to play together. They got to know, like, they got to play together. They got to realize that there's not going to be 3 basketballs on the court at once, and they all need to know what situations they need to let the other guy take over.
Well, I'm just
looking
at the lineups. Harden only played 4 minutes. I wonder if he re-injured himself. Irving played. I
don't root for injuries because I'm not a crumb like that. But
Durant didn't play, but I wonder if Harden got hurt again.
Anyway, that'll do it for this edition of the Sports Hounds. National Championship coming up. It should be a great one. Everyone enjoy the game. Flight Zone's coming up right here exclusively on A2D Radio. We'll have trade deadline, NHL trade deadline, wall-to-wall coverage for you next week. Next Monday at 3 o'clock is the trade deadline. Hopefully the Flyers do something. I think they have to do something. He's Brad Ryer. I'm Rob Brinkman. Thank you to Frank Vesby for producing. Peace out, everybody.